stew, and her name is Minerva Oaks. She's the flower of the scoured coach.
Welcome to the show.
Don't start. We haven't left yet.
Well, oh my gosh, look at that light back there. It's kind of intense. Maybe I'll leave it on. Look, it's got like a little streaky thing. There it is, coming out of it. You know, it's like a lens flare from J.J. Abrams. Maybe I'll just leave it. It's kind of adds sort of this. Anyway, welcome. It's time for, I think this is our third episode of Comics, Cryptids, and Cannonballs. This is, you can't say Super Bowl anymore because then you get like, because the NFL is like sues everybody, I guess, or worse than Disney. So I guess we call it the really big game, right? And I thought about, you know what? Oh, look. Yeah, I got them representing today. I thought about canceling the show and just saying, well, everybody's going to be having parties and I thought, is that really what my crowd is going to be doing today? And I thought, you know what? Some of us are going to watch it. I'll watch the second half. That's why we're going a little bit early so that, if it actually turns into a decent game, I can watch the second half. But I thought, is my audience, there's maybe a few people, but you guys are, does the comic book crowd and the sports crowd really cross paths that much? They do, but not enough to get me to cancel this show. So there you go. And if you're if you are having a party for the game today, I just turn me on the big screen before the game starts. Spread the love to your friends and neighbors who are completely unaware of the crap that you watch on YouTube. Okay, so anyway, here we are, and I got a jam-packed show, just like full of stuff. Now, the reason that light is on is because I've been painting. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you today. Okay. As you can see, still struggling, Aaron. That's me because I'm 62 years old and I still haven't made it, but I'm trying. I keep thinking this will be the year. We shall see. Kind of sounds like what I say about my Nebraska Cornhuskers, right? Yeah. Just wait till next year. A little warm. Maybe I'll just take this off. Got my logging shirt on, ready to go out and cut some trees down here in the Great Northwest. It used to be the Great Northwest. Well, actually, it still is the Great Northwest. It's just the Portland, Eugene area is not so great. But beyond that, not bad. A lot of people want to live here because it's so scenic. And a lot of people like me don't want to live here because of all the other reasons. Anyway, enough about that. Let's see who is here. I'm here early, like I said, because I want to get the show rolling before the game started and, get out before halftime. And I think we can do that. But let's see who's here. Pastmaster Dan says way too early. I think he means he was there way too early. But we appreciate it. Glitch from across the pond. Gemini Dragon, I was the first to hit like. Let's go. Thank you for that. Oh, appreciate that. Stealth X5 is here. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is always here. Pity Maw says, hey, all, I got 3 medias going. Number 1 for Mr. Lopresti. Thank you. That's very nice, Mr. 2 for Cecil on Rumble. I don't know what Cecil's doing. Cecil in comics. And 3, the Puppy Super Bowl. Hail chat. Thanks, Pity Ma, for joining us. Randy Howell says, only Aaron is confident enough to compete against the Super Bowl and win, indeed. Randy Howell says, congrats on 4.4K subs. And Randy's been pushing for that in the chat. We finally hit it. 4.4, which in the big scope of is nothing. But in our little world, my little corner, I'll take it. And thank you all for subbing, because it's not how many subs you have, it's how many people tune in to watch your programming. And my percentage is pretty high for the amount of followers or subscribers I have. So I take that to the bank. Actually, I don't, because it doesn't make me any money, but, you know, figuratively speaking. Andy Dalif is here. Marcus Killigrew, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge. Anthony Perrone is here. He says, go Pats. How about this? The Patriots back to the Super Bowl without Tom Brady and without Bill Belichick. Who would have thought it? But there it is. Andy Dolph says, after top 100, should do the top 100 movie posters. Well, that's a good idea and something that I would be very interested in doing. But we're going to do, after the top AFI, American Film Institute, top 100 films of all time, we're going to hit the Academy Awards and take a rundown of the Academy Awards, which I think is not as interesting in the past 20 years, but previously to that, it's pretty interesting stuff. So we'll take a look at that. And I think the movie posters, I think that's a good idea. We'll work that in eventually too. Thank you for the suggestion. Marcus Killiger says he's watching the big game. Good. I hope it's a good game. Now, see, I'm not one of these guys that's like, does this sort of, well, I live close to Washington, to Seattle, so I'm going to root for Seattle. I don't do that. So I don't have a dog in this fight. I just, the only thing I watch pro sports for is a good game. And if it's a good game, I get pulled in. If it's not a good game, I can check out pretty easily. So unless my Huskers are playing, and then even if it's a bad game, I'll watch it, whether they're on the hurting end or the being hurt end. Michelle Bowers is here with her sword. Pantheon joining us. Says, if I have to pick between football and comics, comics always wins. Excellent. Screw the Gladiator games. This is a much better distraction to the PDFs and Vampire K-Night. I don't know what that means. Leg Kick for 10. Thank you, Leg Kick. Says, go Cornhuskers, watching Seahawks at the... You're not saying you're at the game. No, of course you're not. Because the game is not, it's being played in, isn't it played in Southern California? I think like San Jose or someplace like that. But you are rooting for the Seahawks because you're from that area. But for a minute there, I was thinking, oh, he's up in Seattle watching. I was like, the Super Bowl's not in Seattle. So, okay, there's the green laser. Infamous Mr. Kirst has joined us. Thank you for that. Best Age Comics. Anthony Prone's calling his shot right now. He's saying it's 27-10 Pats. Take it. You heard it here. I don't think so. I think Seattle's defense is too good to give up that many points, but we shall see. We shall see. There's Phil Diaz. Phil will be joining me next week on Creators Corner to plug his new project, which will be launching very, 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 very soon. I think it's next week. Anyway, Phil will let me know. All right. So I wrote down a list because I do have like stuff. Well, let's get right into the Barbaric update, Barbaric Adventures, that is. As most of you know, I will be launching a new project March 4th. If I can ever get Indiegogo to actually approve it. Whenever someone says, or a company says, hey, we're going to redesign this, we're going to redo this, and it's going to be better and more improved, and it never is. It's worse. More convoluted, more complicated, more hoops to jump through for no more reward. So anyway, but that is the goal, March 4th, to get this thing launched. And, you know, the early sign up has become obsolete other than just for maybe promotional purposes, because you can't, people used to be able to they'd sign up on the early sign up and you'd reward them somehow, like saying, okay, I'll give you this special trading card, or you get a discount, or you get free shipping, or whatever, right? But now it doesn't collect your emails. So we can't separate who signs up early and who doesn't anymore. So, I mean, I guess the benefit still is that if you sign up early, then you're going to get notifications that perhaps other people won't get, and you can stay on top of stuff. But we'll throw in something extra anyway. Everybody will probably end up getting it, but you know, still want you to feel like early sign up is important, because we need to be aware of the project so we can push the project. And of course, not only am I relying on you guys to back the project, I'm relying on you guys to help push it as well. And you're always fabulous at that. And thank you very much. Randy Howell for $2, co-launch on Fund My Comic. I hate the new Indiegogo. Things have changed quite a bit in crowdfunding, and it may be due to fallout from drama. It may be due to the economy, which is rebounding, by the way. And it may be due to just, you know, crowdfunding was a hot fad for a while and it's kind of died out. So now we're left with the hardcore people, and that's great, but we're not doing the numbers, or at least haven't been recently, this past year anyway, that we did when we first started. So now it's like these campaigns are going to end up on a variety of platforms. So I'm not going to, well, I could, I might. I don't know that I want to concurrently launch on platforms, because then you've got, I kind of want, like, I'm kind of like one at a time. I don't know if that's smart or not. We'll see. I haven't quite figured it all out, but the moral of the story is that this thing is going to find its way to more than one platform. Let's just put it that way. Let's see here. Mike McCone. It's not Mike McCone. It's Mike Mahone. Art says Wraith 3 was amazing. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you supporting it and glad you liked it. Okay, so anyway, so that's what is Barbaric Adventures magazine. It is 8.5 by 11. It's magazine size, although I'm leaning towards doing perfect bound, which is a square bound spine, as opposed to stapled like the old Savage Tales magazines, because the paper I'm using, I'm not using newsprint, because you can't get it anymore. I mean, you can, but the people that I use don't. And we've had Pete on the show multiple times complaining about newsprint to the point where he's doing it himself now. But the thing is, Pete can only do like 100 copies of something, and I don't think he can do 8.5 by 11. So he's only a printer for specialty items, not a larger press run. So anyway, so I'm using a paper that is similar to newsprint in its look. Let me grab something here real quick. Let's just grab this. So this is sort of what we're emulating here, is Barbaric Tale or Barbaric Adventures, very much a Savage Tales type throwback thing then. And it will be black and white. And it won't, like I said, it'll be on a higher quality than this newsprint, which means I probably can't staple it. I'm going to have to, because it'll bow. If the paper's too heavy, it'll bow at the spine like this and then lay flat, and nobody wants that. So I'm probably going to do square bound. But this magazine is 64 pages. That's what you're going to get from us on higher paper quality. You're going to get ink and I don't know if you can really tell here, but you're going to get ink with ink wash or grayscaling on it. So it'll be kind of like a black and white color book, if you know what I'm saying. Covers will be full color. In fact, there will be 4 painted covers. You'll get one from me, one from Dan Lawless, one from David Williams. They're all contributing stories in the book. And one from, did I say one from me? Yeah, me, David, Dan Lawless will all have stories in the book. Gary Martin will be contributing something to the book, but not a story. And then we have a guest artist doing a painted cover as well. So those will be the 4. And I'll probably put together a big box, like a Barbaric box that has everything in it. And I might throw in a special, we'll see how we launch, a special cover edition by somebody else that will only be available in the big box. I might do something crazy like that. I don't know. But anyway, so I've got my cover is over there on the canvas, sitting on the easel, ready to, I've done the kind of underpainting a little bit on it. But I'm ready to start going on the backgrounds. So I had to do a color study, small, where you basically lay your color scheme out so you know what you're doing before you attack the actual painting. So I did that, and then I was like, you know what? I had this, we did a Frazetta type episode, Frazetta Girls, something like that, on Graybeards weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago now. And I had a piece that I didn't get finished, and I thought, you know what? To kind of get warmed up, let me finish that piece. And so that's what I've been working on the last 2 days. And let me show you what, it's not quite done, but I'll tell you, here we go. So here's what happened. So I just had drawn the girl, and I was going to paint the girl. So I painted the girl. And then I started thinking, what if I, you know, like I wanted to bring in, like, and I haven't done it yet. I wanted to bring a kicker light, an underlighting, you know, like maybe a green or a blue in there to kind of like give it a little more depth. But I thought, well, I can't really do that on a white background. Where's the kicker light coming from, right? So I said, well, I'll put some grass in here, and maybe I'll use a green kicker or whatever. So I put the grass in there, and it was just her standing on grass with a white background. And then I was like, it looks like she's standing in somebody's yard. So I said, okay, well, I'll put a rock in there, and I'll put this like Frazetta, like gnarly tree thing in there. And so then I put that in there, and then I had this white background. I go, and then it looks stupid because it looked like I started to do something and didn't finish it. So I was like, okay, now I'll put some background in. So I put the kind of the trees back here and these cliffs back here. But now I got this white sky, so I got to do something with that. So I'm probably going to put something up there for the sky. And then I'm going to call it good. This was never intended to be anything more than just a get warmed up, you know, with the paint again. But it turned into a finished piece. Anyway, so you can see what I've been doing there. And so the thing I used, I thought, should I get my acrylics out? And I was like, nah, because I've got this wet palette. And anybody knows anything about a wet palette, it takes a little bit to prepare, right? So I thought, well, I got this box. I found this box of paints sitting here that I had not used yet. And so I bought these, and I don't even know where I got them. But I just saw this box set of, because David Williams and others are always saying, hey, use gouache, use gouache. So I see this. It was like, okay, there's gouache. I'll grab these gouache. What I didn't pay attention to was the acrylic, right? So these are essentially acrylic paints. So I'm putting them on just a regular palette, and they're like drying before I can even get all the color used. And I'm like, why are these drying so quick? And I thought, well, they're gouache. I can reactivate them with water. No, they don't reactivate. They say gouache on them, but these are essentially acrylic paints. I don't understand how you can have acrylic gouache because they're not the same thing. They can't be both. They're one or the other. And this one is, these are like acrylics, which is fine. But I'm just saying, I was like, why can't I reactivate these? They're gouache. You put water on them, they should, gouache is basically opaque watercolors. But these, once they dry, they're done. So that's anyway. So I guess I did it in acrylics, even though I didn't mean to do it in acrylics. So I thought I was doing it in gouache. So, yeah, I know that, Marcus. I'm saying I didn't set up my wet palette because I thought, well, I'm using gouache anyway, so it's not going to dry. And it turned out they were acrylics, so they did dry. Anyway, and the moral of the story is you don't add a background after the figure, but this was never intended to be like a finished piece. It was just an exercise on painting the girl, right? The flesh tones and everything. So I did that, and then it was like, oh, maybe I'll put a little, like make a vignette, and it just getting carried away, and that's where I'm at right now. So I'm painting around her, which is ridiculous. You should paint the background first and then go over the top with whatever figure in the foreground. So I always make life twice as hard as it needs to be. That is not true. Once it dries, it's dry. Anyway, okay, Bob Ross is not doing the cover. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of my, that has nothing to do, this is not going to be used in Barbaric Adventures. It's just me getting warmed up so that I can do Barbaric Adventures. Of course, somebody contacted me, I can't remember who it was, when I did this piece on Graybeards, and was like, hey, when you finish that, I want to buy it from you. And I remember who it was, but now it's finished. So I guess you can contact me if you interested. Anyway, the moral is it's Shelley's fault, right? That is correct. That is absolutely correct. Okay. So yeah, everybody, Pantheon said it would have been great if you'd done this and back. Yeah. Like I said, it was just supposed to be a figure, and then I started adding crap, and then I was like, whatever. So now I got to put some sky in there, and then I'm going to call it good. But anyway. Okay. So anyway, be on the lookout for, of course, I'll be letting you know daily about Barbaric Adventures, which is going to be a really cool thing. This really high level throwback black and white magazine that I think you'll really enjoy. So there you have it. And let me take a moment here to let you guys all know that this show is brought to you by me. So if you have a minute, if you're looking for back issues, and I got some people coming in now ordering Wraith of God 3 because it's done and they didn't want to wait. So now they can just go and get it. And that's fine. That's cool, man. Whatever. It's more expensive now than it was during the campaign. And you should always know that I do deliver my products always, no exceptions. So it doesn't hurt to back early, but to each his own. They are available. Wrightson had an interesting quote, and I think he stole it from somebody else. But I should say, I read Wrightson say this, but he may have been quoting somebody else, because I think another famous artist said this. You guys probably would know. That a picture is never completed. It's only abandoned. And sometimes it does feel like that, because you always feel like it could be better, but at some point you got to move on. So anyway, you can go to this groovy website of mine. I got to change this Wraith of God 3 now that it's completed. I'll have to change my header. I will do that this week, or at least I'll have my web guy do it this week, or I'll ask my web guy to do it, and he'll do it as soon as he can. So you click up here and you can go to the store. The store has prints, Aren't those fun? Just sold one of these Freya of the Ice Kingdom prints last week. Some groovy prints. They all come signed. Some of them are signed and numbered. There's Rosie the Riveteer. That's one of my all-time faves. Still got some Planet Doom movie posters left. All sorts of good stuff on there. If you're looking for books, I got books too. And so Wraith of God 1, second printing there. We've got the Graybeard Studio Sketchbook Ash Can. I still have a couple of those left. Wraith of God wraparound cover, the award-winning wraparound cover to Wraith of God 2 is available. Kit Carter soft cover. I still have a few issues of Bloodhunter's Tomb of Dracula cover and the Bisley cover and the Tales of Suspense cover. Those were like the alternate covers, if you will, the variants. I don't have a ton of those left. Very few, actually. Power Cube still available. Garbage Man trade paperback still available. I still have Saved from the Trash, which is a really nice black and white sketchbook. And then the new ones, Wraith of God, Fear Hollow, A, B, and C covers. We still have the Kit Carter Galactic Ranger sketchbook, which is actually a pretty nice sketchbook. If you didn't pick it up, when you ordered Kit Carter, still have those available. I don't know why Wraith of God, Fear Hollow is all the way over here. The cover C, that's the Marvel cover. But this is all the stuff that's available on the website. And then I've also got art. That Hulk piece you've seen floating around on Twitter, that's available. A lot of the stuff I do on Graybeards or just recreationally has found its way up here, like this Conan piece I did recently. So there's like 3 pages of sketches on here, which calling them sketches is, they're more like finished art, but maybe a little looser than I would normally do. If you're looking for superhero pages, you know, from my DC days and Marvel days, there's some of that stuff in here. Look at, there's some Wraith of God pages. Woohoo! From Blood Hunters, quite a few actually. There's some Kit Carter pages from the Kit Carter graphic novel. And we've got some Justice League and some Swamp Thing pages. And I put stuff up there as I get around to it. So there's more coming. There always is, but, and some cover artwork. A couple pages of cover art. So there you go. And there's also Empire Comics, portfolio page, blog, if I ever write anything in the blog. But so anyway, check out my website. You'll find a link in the description of this video. If you need any back issues or comics or anything that I can possibly supply, let me do it. So there you go. Okay, we got some more people joining us late. There's Stealth X5 for 2 says hello. Thanks, Stealth. Appreciate that. MC Corndog is MJ Corndog, excuse me, is here. Merilith, HR 3800. Marcus Killiger. We already said Marcus. There's Merilith. And what do we got here? The Vespa guy for 10. Thank you, Vespa. Tashin has a big sale that ends today. Obviously, buy something from Aaron's site first, but if you have money left over, then there are some good deals. Yeah, when Tashin does like their 50% off and stuff, like they have that big Humongo Frazetta book that I have, and also an EC book I bought from them that's huge. They also have like Marvel collections and stuff. Really nice, humongous coffee table books. They're pretty expensive, but when they're on sale, you can get a good deal. So thank you, Vespa guy, for that. And did I grab Randy's for 2? He says co-launch, and I think I did. Didn't we address that? Because he hates the new Indiegogo. Yeah, so do I. But yeah, I'm not gonna. Like I said, it's gonna be it'll be on more than one platform. So, okay. All righty. So that's that. Let's get into some comic book talk, shall we? I mean, honestly, isn't that really what we're here for? All right. What is the expensive comic of the week? The great thing about the expensive comic of the week is there's always a story that goes with it. Captain America Caper, a $3 million comics journey from theft to auction. Once again, another book that got stolen and then resurfaced years later and sold for quite a bit. We are talking about, of course, Captain America Comics #1, March 1941. Maybe if I shared the image, it would help you. There he is. Now we're going to specifically take a look at this 9.4 issue that, but first let's see what Stealth has to say for $5. Thank you, Stealth. I read Ray 3. Art was amazing, and so was the story. Thank you, Stealth. Appreciate it very much. I know there's some people want me to come on and talk about Ray 3, and I've been like on their shows, and I'm like, I kind of want everybody to read it first before I go in and start dropping spoilers. So, and there's still people that are just getting around to reading it. So, and Stealth was one of them. Of course, Stealth was one of the last ones to get his orders. So that explains that. The question is, if this has been stolen, can it be sold? That's what Merilith wants to know. We're going to find out right now. So here's the story on this. This is from the San Francisco pedigree collection. 9.4 is just ridiculous. But here we go. So in the world of comic book collecting, provenance stories matter, and that is so freaking true. And a few comics have a story like the San Francisco copy of Captain America #1, a book that went from being a $10 Comic-Con purchase to a stolen treasure to a $3.1 million auction record. The book itself is legendary. The debut comic introduced Captain America to the world with the patriotic superhero punching out Adolf Hitler. It hit the newsstands in early 1941, nearly a year before the U.S. joined World War II, making the cover seem like a prophecy or preordained history. The San Francisco copy would make history of its own. And so here's the story. In May 1973, someone walked into the Berkeley Comic Convention with boxes of Golden Age comics dating from the late 1930s to about 1945. The collection was massive and in spectacular condition, and the comics with the provenance are known as the San Francisco pedigree by collectors. Over the years, many different names have attached to the sellers, none of which can be verified. The most widely circulated story is that a young man started the collection before the Second World War, and his parents kept buying the comics he liked after he joined the Navy. Supposedly, he was killed in a Japanese kamikaze attack, which is why the collection ends in 1945. Depending on who you ask, either the parents or their heirs decided to sell the comics in the early 1970s. None of this story is true either. Okay, but that's the rumor going around. Okay, but here's what we do know. Two of the convention organizers, look at this. Oh my gosh, look at this porn up here, this underground comic stuff. Of course, in Berkeley, isn't that where the underground comic, and Crumb and all those guys originated? So this is like the, I guess, the flyer or maybe the program guide for the show. So two of the convention organizers, Nick Marcus and Mike Maniac, happened to be at the ticket desk at the Berkeley Comic Con. The pair often bought and sold comics together, and they immediately worked out a deal for what they considered the cream of the collection, all the books from Timely Publications, the predecessor to Marvel Comics. The highlight, of course, was Captain America #1. Now he says, the guy who wrote this article says, when I spoke to Nick recently, He recalled paying $10 for each comic. Can you believe that? Which he now concedes was a little bit of a ripoff. Really? Even in 1970, that was a ripoff. That's why you never, I shouldn't say this, but don't ever sell your comic books to dealers if you don't know what you've got. You know, there are some, honest dealers out there, Bedrock City, Dale Roberts. There's some guys out there that'll be fair with you. But there's also guys looking $10. Can you imagine? He says, when I asked why they didn't try to get the whole collection, his answer revealed the internal collector's dilemma: quantity or quality. Nick had wanted to buy everything, but Mike insisted, no, we just need to buy these. So they went with the quality. Although you could argue, I don't know what else was in his collection, but there's a lot of good stuff, Golden Age stuff, that is highly collectible and highly valuable, not just the timely Marvel stuff. Okay, so riding high on their purchase, Nick and Mike opened Shazam Comic Art Shop in Walnut Creek, California. Walnut Creek used to be the headquarters for Sears. Montgomery Ward. That's my dog. Anyway, so that little tidbit. I used to work for Montgomery Ward back when I was 19 in the camera department of all places. Nick ran the shop and became something of a local comics evangelist, giving presentations around town, blah, blah, blah. One article announced that 3 key timely first issues, Captain America, Human Torch, and Submariner, could be found in their store. The publicity worked too well. On Saturday, December 29th, 1973, a man Nick remembers as a lawyer came into the Shazam comic shop. He visited before, but this time he asked to use the restroom. The rare comics, including Cap 1, which is how comic collector universally referred to Captain America #1, were lying out in the open on the way to the bathroom. Are you freaking kidding me? In hindsight, Nick admits that wasn't smart. Really? The comics disappeared that day. Shocker. Nick filed a police report about the theft of 6 comics worth $2,000. Now they're worth about, probably collectively like, $7 or $8 million, probably. So anyway, he said that he filed the police report about the theft of the 6 comics worth $2,000, a fortune in 1973, when comic collecting was still quite niche. He told the newspaper that Cap 1 alone was worth at least $1,000 after he just paid somebody $10 for it. And then he knew of a copy that had sold for twice that. The Walnut Creek police never cracked the case. The theft broke up Nick and Mike's partnership, and Shazam Comics closed a year later. Nick left comics entirely, moving to Texas to work in oil exploration, which is probably way smarter. It really took it. He says it really took it out of me. He said comics weren't much fun anymore. I can imagine. Man, if I had those, I don't have books like that, but if I did and they got stolen, oh, man, that would hurt. The story might have ended there, but in 2019, Heritage Auctions announced the coming sale of one of the most famous copies of one of the most famous comics, the San Francisco copy of Captain America #1. So it resurfaces in 2019 at a Heritage auction. The distinctive markings on its covers identified it as the stolen comic. Somehow Heritage knew its troubled history. Somehow Heritage knew its troubled history. What exactly happened? Doggone that dog. Boy, do we run a tight ship around here. What exactly happened next remains clouded. I suspect non-disclosure agreements are involved, as Mike Maniac wouldn't talk to me at all, and Nick said he couldn't discuss it. But we know this. More than 40 years after the theft, Heritage worked out a deal. They would only say that all parties involved entered into an agreement that cleared the title and allowed for the auction. Then the comic sold for $915,000. That's 2019. 3 years later, the San Francisco Cap 1 returned to Heritage and rode the COVID-era boom in comic prices to an astonishing $3,120,000. Some questions still remain. Did Nick and Mike's settlement approach anything close to the eventual sales price? They wouldn't even say that they had been paid, but I'm pretty sure they got a settlement. I asked several comic book collectors who have known Mike for many years if they noticed he came into a lot of money in 2019. They all said no. Was the consigner an innocent third party or someone closer to the original theft? It's all very intriguing. They have no answers, but there you go. Very similar to last week when we talked about the Nick Cage Action Comics #1. So this has quite the story behind it. And of course, it is the highest graded copy known to exist. And it's really funny because if you look at, where's my stuff? There it is. If you look at this on Go Collect, which is a price, a value, a site where you can get comic book values and stuff, and what they've sold for. You see down here, it's sold for, there's the 3.1 million sale at Heritage, and there's the 2019 sale, right? But if you go back, hang on a second here. Come on, you dumb thing, load. Okay, there we go. So the 9.4 is the highest known copy, right? The 9.2, which has a current value, which means it sold recently, $775,000. Look at that jump. From a 9.2 to a 9.4, you have a $2.5 million increase. That's absurd. Now, if that, I mean, that's from a 9.2 to a 9.4, that's now, granted, it's the highest known copy and it's the San Francisco copy and it has this sort of story behind it, but wow. A 9.4, if a 9.2 is worth 775,000, you would think a 9.4 would be somewhere maybe 1.5 million at most. So that's a crazy price. And that may have been fueled by the COVID boom as well. I'm curious if it would get that now or if you'd take a loss. But anybody that spent $3 million on a comic didn't buy it to sell it. So anyway, that's interesting. That is our, folks, that is our expensive comic of the week. Captain America #1, specifically the San Francisco copy. All righty. All right, we're rolling now. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I know, some of you are probably bailing out for the Super Bowl, but I'm warning you, you're going to miss some cool stuff. Let's see. David Williams joining us as what's up, nerd? David gets to pick categories tomorrow, David, for Graybeards this week. So we'll be expecting those for the poll sometime tomorrow early. I would prefer David. He hasn't been feeling well, though, so hopefully he's rebounding here. All right, according to my list, we're going to take a look at the American Film Institute's top 100 films of all time. I did rediscover my list, so I'm going to open that up for cross-referencing purposes. Okay, so we left off. Oh my gosh, I swear. Google's new, their windows are driving me crazy. Okay, we left off at we did 71 was Saving Private Ryan last week. So now we open up with number 70 on American Film Institute's top 100 films of all time. This is number 70 on the revised list. There was a 1997 list. Now there's their more current list. And it is, of course, the Stanley Kubrick classic, Clockwork Orange, featuring Malcolm McDowell in his most disturbing and weird best. Although I don't know. I didn't see Caligula, but I can imagine that was pretty disturbing as well. I don't even know what to say about this movie. It's really hard to watch. And I wouldn't watch it now. When I was young, and more tolerant of disgusting stuff, I watched this, and other than its, you know, its commentary on violence and how to treat it in social circles, how to handle a violent populace. It's interesting for sure, but like I said, hard to watch, but considered a classic. And obviously, you know, to say that Stanley Kubrick was a bit of a weirdo, it probably would not be a stretch. When I see movies like this, I think, who thought of this and why? So anyway, like I said, there is a message about violence and treating criminals and all that kind of stuff, whether you agree with it or not. It is interesting. And certainly socially impactful. So there it is, makes the list at number 70. Now this, okay, now people are texting me. Why is this a thing? No one texts me when I'm not on the air. All right, anyway. Okay, so here we go to, dare I say it, number 69. You can read into this all you want. Interesting. This is interesting. This is a funny movie. Top 100 of all time? I guess. I mean, here's the thing. What's interesting to do is look at AFI's revised list, which we're doing, but then look at the original list. Now, this was on the original list of top 100 films. Is this film greater than I'm giving it credit for? It was originally number 62, but it has dropped 7 spots. In the original list, it was number 62. So it has dropped 7 spots for this new list. And let's face it, this new list is not the same people that sat around and are rethinking what they did. It's a brand new group of people coming in. And that's why you have so many new entries into this and so many stuff moving around. But it's, you know, for conversation. So here we go. Yeah, there you go. Gemini Dragon says, not a top 100. Ben-Hur was better than this. Yeah, Ben-Hur, which is barely clinging to the 100th spot on this list. I don't know if we're supposed to assume that this was, I mean, this movie takes on a whole new meaning currently than it did when this movie was made, for sure. I mean, this was just, you know, an extension of Milton Berle, you know, in drag. Bill Murray is excellent in this movie, and uncredited too, which is really interesting, as he plays Dustin Hoffman's roommate. He's this playwright. It's hilarious. And I love the fact that Dustin Hoffman is this struggling actor, but a really serious struggling actor. Will do anything to get a role because he's so problematic that no one will hire him anymore. And so he does this, and then he gets this whole, you know, side life going on as this woman, but then he's really this man who's in love with Jessica Lange, but then Jessica Lange's father falls in love with him. It's really, it is funny, and it's has many uncomfortable moments that are way more uncomfortable now, like I said, with the current state of our society. Paul Taylor, $10 Canadian. Thank you, Paul. Hail, Aaron in chat. Malcolm McDowell has been in some weird movies. Plus, he killed Captain Kirk, who died reaching for the TV remote control. Or you could say he died in scaffolding while painting a house. But I know that terrible movie. Gemini Dragon says Mrs. Doubtfire did it better. I don't know that Mrs. Doubtfire is on this list. I don't think she is. So the question really is, what was so significant about this? And I think it did get nominated for Best Picture, and I know he got nominated for Best Actor. So, and like I said, I thought it was a good movie, and I haven't seen it probably since it came out. But I'm trying to think what. I mean, I guess it did deal with some real interesting moral dilemmas and stuff. So, I mean, it's deeper. It's a much deeper film than on the surface that you would think. But still, I'm not sure that it needs to be on this list. But like I said, it's made it twice, so we'll just have to go with it. This next one definitely will, in my opinion, and also in the American Film Institute's opinion, should be on this list. And it is arguably Clint Eastwood's masterpiece, Unforgiven. Excuse me, not The Unforgiven, but Unforgiven. Tremendous performances by Gene Hackman, who won Best Supporting Actor for this, and won Best Picture, of course. Clint got nominated for Best Actor. I think it's the only time in his career he's been nominated for Best Actor. Unless he sneak in for not El Camino. What was the car movie that where he plays this old racist guy? What the heck was Gran Torino? I don't know. Did he get nominated? He might have got nominated for Gran Torino. I can't remember. But he did. This, I believe, was his first. I'm almost positive this was his first acting nomination. Pantheon says, believe it or not, Clint Eastwood got that script in the early 70s for Unforgiven. He held on to it until he got older so he could play the part. That's interesting. I believe it, though. This is a great movie. And there's a lot of great scenes. But I remember there's one where there's that kid following him around, and they go after the all those guys that cut up that prostitute, and the one young guy, one of the guys they're after goes and, is in the outhouse, and he goes in and shoots him while he's in the outhouse. The young guy does, and then he just is sick. Because it's the first time he's killed somebody, and he just was like, and he's crying sort of, and he's sitting there talking to Clint Eastwood, and he's like trying to justify it in his mind, and he says, well, he had it coming, right? He had it coming. And Clint Eastwood looks down at him and goes, kid, we've all got it coming. That's a great line. But there's just great, great moments in this movie. Morgan Freeman's terrific in it. Richard Harris isn't in it a lot, but he does have kind of an interesting part in there. So anyway, I think that this one definitely deserves to be in there, and it's a more contemporary film. I mean, it's still in the early 90s, so it was 30 years ago, but feels like it's more of a contemporary film. Now, The Unforgiven originally was 98, but when that first list came out, it was 1997. So this has only been out a few years. And so movies tend to either get better or worse with time, and rarely do they stay the same. Excuse me. So obviously they're thinking this is a lot better movie than maybe they gave it credit for when it first came out. Okay, that's number 68. Number 67. Another classic. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? A tour de force by Elizabeth Taylor. Pretty sure she won the Academy Award for this. As this bitchy wife that nobody can stand. And, I don't know that I would, I'm trying to think if I've seen the whole thing or not. I feel like I have, but just watching, married couples fight, and she's such a, what in this movie that, it's not what I would classify as really great entertainment, but, killer performance though. Yeah, Paul Taylor wants to know, is this where did this fall in between their many marriages and divorces? That's a good question. I don't know where they were at. They were probably divorced at this point. I can't remember because this is 1966. You got to figure by this point they'd probably been divorced about 3 times. But Elizabeth Taylor was so beautiful, and even as like an old lady, she wasn't old in this. She was middle aged, but she was still quite attractive. But man. So anyway, I wouldn't argue its inclusion. I mean, this is such a famous film. All right, here we go. This one is not nearly high enough for me, but what do I know? You know what? You love it. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark at number 66. This is one of my top 5 films of all time, but I don't grade on necessarily quality. I grade very subjectively. Do I really enjoy it? Like Star Trek 2 is one of my top 5 movies of all time. My favorite movies, I should say. I wouldn't list Star Trek 2 as one of the top 5 greatest movies of all time, but it's one of my favorites. And this is too. So it's now at number 66. The original list was number 60, so it hasn't dropped that much. But great movie poster, great series of movie posters attached to this movie. This, of course, is by the great Richard Amsel, who died young, and kind of inspired Struzan, and Struzan sort of took up the mantle. And I think Struzan's better than Richard Amsel, but Amsel was the first guy that I am aware of that kind of did this sort of did these posters with this kind of acrylic paint and colored pencil combination. And he used colored pencil extensively. I also did The Dark Crystal, The Late Show with Art Carney is a great movie poster, or at least great art on the movie poster. But anyway, this is freaking awesome film. I remember when this came out in 81. I was a junior in high school. And so you got the posters, Indiana Jones, a new hero from the creators of Jaws and Star Wars. So it's not Spielberg and Lucas were not household names at this point. The movies they made were, of course, Star Wars was, right? But they're pushing what they've done, not who they are at this point. I think after this movie, that kind of did it, where Spielberg was Spielberg and Lucas was Lucas, because you got, when you're responsible for multiple blockbusters that early in your career, at that point, everybody knows who you are. So this is a story by Lucas. So he created this concept, hired Lawrence Kasdan, one of the great screenwriters of that era, maybe of all time, to do the screenplay. And then they brought Spielberg on to direct. They were going to use Tom Selleck, but they couldn't get him out of his Magnum Force. I've watched some stuff with Tom Selleck, and I just kind of get a vibe on, how he would have fared in this role. I think he would have been okay, actually. And Harrison Ford was not. I mean, he was Han Solo, kind of like Chris Evans as Captain America, but he wasn't carrying movies on his name. But after this, he was. And so as you can see, they're not pushing Harrison Ford at all as like, Harrison Ford in a Steven Spielberg film. No. So you see Harrison Ford's down there, starring Harrison Ford right there. But this kind of came out and surprised everybody. And I remember when it came out, I was like, what is this? It didn't seem that like the fanfare was as big as it might have been. But then people were just, the word of mouth on this movie was incredible. You got to go see it. It's the best movie ever, blah, blah, blah. And of course, then it made a fortune. Yeah, great line, quotable lines. Harrison Ford. I couldn't stand Harrison Ford in Star Wars because I thought he was terrible in it, quite frankly. And it might have just been the dialogue, but I just thought his delivery, I just thought everything was bad. But this, better screenplay, and this to me, I said, okay, this guy is good. And it changed my whole opinion about Harrison Ford. Obviously, just a completely ridiculously iconic film that has to be on this list and probably should be considerably higher. Okay, let's go to number 65. Another classic, the golden age of Hollywood, and two powerhouses in it. The African Queen with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. I recently saw this. I want to say recently, within the last 5 or 6 years. It's really good. Again, it's kind of bizarre to sit there and how do you grade these movies? Like, why is this better than Raiders? I mean, it's very different than Raiders, obviously, but and it's like, I don't know that these lists, the order means that much. The fact that they're in the top 100, I think, is valuable, but it's their placement. It's totally subjective, but this is a great movie. Oh, this looks like looks like I grabbed a foreign movie poster. Not better than Ben-Hur. I agree. I wouldn't say this is better than Ben-Hur. It's a great movie. Gemini Dragon says good movie, not top 100. Okay. OJ is the Terminator. What in the world, Henry Jeremick, are you talking about? Yeah, I remember seeing Hanover Street, and it was, but I saw Hanover Street after Raiders. I didn't see it when it came out in the theater. Had a good movie poster though. I liked it. But yeah. Yeah, it says every time I look at the African Queen, I feel like taking a shower. What a grimy shoot. I know, but that sort of authentic made it very authentic. It wasn't sort of like this glamorous Hollywood. It was grimy and dirty and sweaty, and it's a combination of adventure and romance, which is a really nice combination. Bogart doesn't necessarily play a very heroic character, and Katharine Hepburn is the daughter of a missionary, so she's very uptight, and it's a really nice character combination, and I think it moves really well for what the type of movie it is. But this is John Huston, right? Directed this? Yes, there it is. Duh. And they're saying that Gemini saying The Treasure of Sierra Madre is a better Huston film. It's probably on this list. I haven't got there yet, but I think it's on this list. So, okay. Where are we at? So that was African Queen at number 65. Now, here's a movie that I recently just saw all the way through because I wanted to see the performance of the star of this movie, which is Peter Finch. Network. Faye Dunaway, William Holden, Peter Finch, and Robert Duvall, directed by Sidney Lumet, who's such a great director. I was thinking the other night about top 10 directors of all time, and boy, that's a tough list because there's like 5 or 6 that have to be on the list, that everybody would agree have to be on the list. But then after that, you know, Sidney Lumet could be one of those guys. And then again, he may not be. Maybe he's top 20. I don't know, but he's really good. This is an interesting film because the screenplays by Patty Chayefsky. He's kind of a weird dude, or was. The woman that played William Holden's wife in this movie had one scene at the dinner table where there's sort of like, you know, I think he admits to having an affair, and I think with Faye Dunaway or whatever. And it's just a short scene, but the woman that I can't even remember her name that played his wife got nominated for Best Supporting Actress in this like 3-minute role. It was pretty impressive. And Peter Finch is terrific in this. That end where I'm as mad as hell. Actually, wait a minute. Where is it? Here we go.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
So he gets everybody yelling out the window, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Good movie. Now, granted, this came out the same year as Rocky, so I was rooting for Sylvester Stallone in the Academy Awards as a little kid, but you know, what are you gonna do? Now I have a greater appreciation that Sylvester Stallone's performance in Rocky was really good, but come on, not as good as Peter Finch. Okay, so that's number 64, Network. Number 64. So let's go to number 63, which is I was going to say controversial, but not really. I was controversial at the Academy Awards for me. Cabaret, directed by Bob Fosse. Joel Grey won Best Supporting Actor and beat out 3 guys from The Godfather. Come on, man. So you had, and again, this isn't an Academy Award show, it's the movie show, but you had Duvall, James Caan, and Al Pacino all nominated for Best Supporting Actor for The Godfather, and they lost to Joel Grey. Come on, man. Not that Joel Grey wasn't great in this. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, come on, man. And then this is when they used to cheat because you had 2 pictures, right? This was nominated for Best Picture, as was The Godfather. Bob Fosse wins Best Director, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have, but I don't know how you say that The Godfather is one of the greatest films of all time and you don't reward the guy who directed it. Coppola should have won. But this had Nazis in it, and so that's one good way to always make sure you get the Academy's attention, is doing, you know, a World War II film. And this was. And of course, it made Liza Minnelli an international superstar. And did she win Best Actress? I can't remember. She may have. I know it won 8 Academy Awards, so she might have. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and check that. But again, we're not doing an Academy Award show right now. We're just doing them top 100 movies. Well, Marcus brings up a good point, saying that those actors split the vote 3 ways on The Godfather. That's very possible too. There it is, Paul Taylor. Liza Minnelli won the Academy Award for Best Actress in Leading Role for her performance as Sally Bowles in film Cabaret. There you go. Okay, she did win it. Anyway, certainly a film that should be on this list, and it is. So, and again, no arguments. Like I said, you can argue about placement. Like, I think Ben-Hur is really getting robbed on this list, but most part, you could, you know, you can switch these up quite a bit. So this was, it's up 15 points. So in the original list, Cabaret was 60. Okay. Let me try that again. Cabaret was not on the list at all on the first time around, which is surprising to me, but it is on this revised list. Network was number 66 in the previous list and is up to 2 points to 64. I got no problem with that. I should point out that African Queen, which we talked about just earlier here, which was number 65. I just lost it. Okay. That was number 17 on the original list and has dropped all the way down 48 spots to number 65, which I think may be more appropriate for it than, African Queen is the top 20 film of all time. I don't know about that. So anyway, so Cabaret is new. So you can blame Cabaret for knocking Ben-Hur down farther. All right, number 62. We're almost done here with today's list. Number 62. How about this? I don't know. Is this film overrated or not? I've seen it multiple times. I like it. I mean, nostalgia always reigns supreme. And this, you know, this is only, when this came out, 74, I think. 73. So it was only 11 years removed from its source material, which is 1962. Great ensemble cast. It doesn't really have a plot. And it's not really a comedy, even though it kind of feels like it should be. It's more of just a slice of life from 1962. It's like George Lucas's love letter to his past. And this got nominated for Best Picture. This is one of those head scratchers, right? Like Tootsie. You kind of go, yeah, it was good, but was it that good? And of course, it put George Lucas in a position to do Star Wars, so we should be thankful for that. Because I think he was coming off THX 1190 or whatever that was, which was boring as moo. So he needed this, and it worked out well for him. He was nominated for Best Director for this as well. Yeah, I saw a documentary on this, which was pretty interesting. But Randy says George Lucas went nuts on the set as they were using Coke bottles, not consistent with the time period. That's pretty funny. Gemini Dragon says, no way is American Graffiti top 100. But I think part of the being on this list is also cultural significance, which I don't know if that's fair or not. This is a culturally significant film. You got a Mort Drucker movie poster too, which is really cool. But yeah, this is one of these films you hear like all about all the time. And then you go watch it and you go, yeah, okay. But, so I don't know. I mean, if George Lucas was here in my house right now, I'd be telling him how brilliant this was. And I do think it's good. Someone would have to explain to me why it's great, though. Other than just him capturing the nostalgia. And he was weaving back and forth multiple storylines, which is always hard to do. And made it all sort of tie in at the end, which I appreciate. I mean, he did bring it together, but I still, beyond just one night in the life kind of thing, I'm not really sure what the plot of this film is, if there is one. Yeah, Henry Jeremick says, who did the poster? Mort Drucker, dude. That's a Mort Drucker. It's got to be. I'm 100% positive that's Mort Drucker. I wouldn't bet my life on it because I would never do that because I'm always wrong when I do that. But that sure as heck looks like Mort Drucker to me. Gemini Dragon says, the Mad World is better and has an all-star cast. Well, I don't know. Yeah, but it's funnier. Mad World is, this does have some heart, some serious issues in it that kind of elevate it in terms of importance. But again, I don't know. I did spawn Happy Days, though, as many have pointed out in the chat, which was a pretty good show until Ron Howard left. But anyway, there you go. So American Graffiti at number 62. 40 spots higher than Ben-Hur. Come on, man. All right, now this one is new to the list, and I have not seen this. And after reading what it's about, I desperately want to see it. So American Graffiti, to get a load of this before we get to the last one here. American Graffiti was on the original list was 77. Now it's 62. It has gone up 15 spots. So it's even become more culturally significant, apparently, over the past 20 years, 25 years or whatever. All right. At number 61, new to the list, not on the original list, but new to this revised list, is a movie I'll bet most of us have not seen. Sullivan's Travels, starring Joel McCrea and Veronica Lake. So what's this? And it's directed by Preston Sturges, of course, who is the great, he wrote and directed it, silent movie director, comedy director. So he comes out, and this is 41? Yeah, 1941. So here's the movie. The movie is Joel McCrea plays this really successful film director in Hollywood who's only does comedies and wants to do a really important film. Feels like he really needs to make an important film that speaks to the people, right? And this movie he wants to make is called Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Yes, the Coens used that later. So what does he do? What he does is he goes out and lives on the street like a homeless guy or whatever to kind of get in touch with poverty and all, this stuff that he's completely unaware of as this Hollywood elite. And hijinks ensue, but also apparently some very poignant, dramatic moments where this guy starts to realize how different it is being down here instead of way up here. And I think what a great Hollywood self-reflexive storyline for a film. And I'm like, I have got to see this movie now. Again, it wasn't on the list originally, but it is now at number 61, Sullivan's Travels. Avenger 2 says, I have Sullivan's Travels, but have not watched it yet. It's out home video through Criterion. Its significance is Veronica Lake, not her co-star or the director. Well, that may be significance to you, but Preston Sturges was a very famous director. So this, along with Swing Time, the Fred Astaire movie that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and I want to see The Last American Picture Show too, which I have not seen. So those are three. This, though, I really want to see because I love the premise. So we shall see. Does it hold up? And I'll review it after I watch it. Okay. And that, folks, is going to do it for our lineup this week. That takes us to, we'll start with number 60 next week as we take 10 each week, working our way through the AFI top 100 films of all time. All right. We're still wondering about Tootsie, but since it made both lists, I feel like I want to go watch that movie again now, but also got a feeling it'll make me so uncomfortable I won't enjoy it. Where it's just so funny how things change in society that affect the way you might look at something. Because back when it came out in like 83 or 84, whatever it was just funny. You know, now it's like funny, disturbing. Anyway, so let's see here. I think next on the list, of course, let's look at some comic book covers. Famous Schmamish. What people remember is visual imagery. Veronica Lake had great hair. She did. She's iconic, and I don't even know how great of an actor she actually was. I'm trying to think of anything I've seen her in. She was in that detective movie with Alan Ladd. What was that one? I remember her in that. And she was good. I don't know, man. Starlets back in the 40s were kind of a different thing for sure. But now let's take a look at some Kevin Nowlan stuff. Now Kevin's a terrific artist. He what makes him so interesting to me is his placement of blacks on his characters, his use of shadow. He has a very unique, stylized approach to anatomy and stuff. And so some people are kind of like, they don't get it. And other people really like it because it's so unique. So these are just some of my favorite covers. And the great thing about Kevin is I know Kevin and he still remembers me. So that is a plus. Okay, let's bring in this first little entry here. Cloak and Dagger and Doctor Strange. Remember these Strange Tales? God, these were like, what? 88, maybe? Look, he's using that zip in the background there. Well, actually, I've featured a few artists on here that have forgotten me, sadly. People still ripping on Veronica Lake. Okay, you know, this is really nice because it's got a nice design. This whole sort of circular motif that Cloak is using, and then putting a dagger in here. And then the zip in the background, rather than, you'd have trouble putting a color back here because this blue is so intense. And she's white, so you can't have a white background. And Kevin, most of the time, I think, colored his own covers and stuff. So this use of the zip back there is really clever, good idea. I really like this cover. It's really well designed. And this interesting lighting effect on Cloak's face and on his cloak. But I think it's good. And it's got that little, the 1970s sort of box cover on it too, which I kind of like. I don't know. I really like this one. It's simple, but really effective. And now I did not put, Kevin Nowlan may be best known for inking other people and then like Kevin Nolanizing them, but I'm only choosing stuff that he penciled and inked for this. Because you can look at like Sword of Azrael, which he inked over Quesada and just made Quesada look. And I think, people have different opinions about Joe, but I like his art. I think it's really, really good. I always have. But I thought Nolan really, really made him look good. But so there's a lot of that stuff. Dan Jurgens, he inked Dan Jurgens on that Superman Aliens thing, which is phenomenal. But I didn't include any of those things because only stuff that he penciled as well as inked. I've always liked this cover. Now this goes way back, but I guess it does go way back now because time flies, baby. And when he was working on the Defenders. Now look how sketchy this is, the line work and stuff on this. Certainly not what he's doing now. But for basically a cover full of close-ups, this is really interesting. There's great lighting on here. And I love how he sort of positions each head just a little bit differently to create this really nice composition. So yeah, this is a very simple cover, but I remember when this came out and I wasn't reading Defenders and I had no idea who Kevin Nowlan was at the time. But I thought this was really good. I remember going, oh, that's cool. Who's that guy? That's the Gargoyle Gemini Dragon, not Etrigan. Gargoyle does look an awful lot like the demon, just saying. All righty. And again, these are not in any order, and you may have other covers that are your favorite. Your mileage, of course, may vary. This is, oh shoot, I forgot to. This is a more modern one, or not modern, but more current, recent. That's the word I'm looking for. Why do I keep hitting the wrong button here? Okay, here it is. Anyway, I forgot to write down what this was from. I think it's like one of the Green Lantern offshoot titles, and it's number 13 or something. Again, it's not, it's not like groundbreaking in terms of design, but it's a good, well-executed design. And again, I love like his hands and the way he does hands and fingers and stuff. And the lighting effect. You're almost always, I shouldn't say always, but almost always getting a lighting effect with Kevin. And that's kind of cool. But yeah, anybody that can help me out and let the chat know what cover this was, because for what issue this was. I want to say issue 13, but I can't remember if it was Green Lantern Corps or something like that. I don't remember. But I would agree with that. It does have a Gil Kane vibe. And as we know, Kevin did ink Gil Kane on some stuff. And he also inked, oh my gosh, Garcia Lopez. That Dr. Strange Fate, that amalgam book that Marvel and DC did, where they combined Dr. Fate and Dr. Strange. And Garcia Lopez drew it, but Kevin Nowlan inked it. Holy crap. So good. Blue Boy Comics, dude, knock it off. I get you don't like Trump, but I don't need you doing that in my chat. So just cool it, please. Anyway. Okay. Here's another one. I always liked this cover. And there's such a level of stylization in Kevin's work that even in this where he's not using a lot, even when he's not using a lot of like shadows and stuff, it's cool to look at, you know, just the angularity of the characters. That, I mean, he has his own unique vision, which is what makes comic book artists superstars or stars or superstars, is when you look at their stuff and it's not like anything else you've seen. And so you immediately know who that is. And so you can sit there and say, well, you know, his anatomy is not quite right here or there, or whatever. But guys that draw with good anatomy and everything's right on the, or I shouldn't say good, that's not the right phrase, but the guys who draw with accurate to real life anatomy, you put those guys side by side, and I would be one of those guys, and you can't tell them apart half the time. This unique vision that Kevin has makes him just instantly identifiable. And that is, and again, that's what makes you a comic book star. And he certainly does it. And the problem with Kevin is he just never did like a monthly book or did a ton of work. So you're always bebopping around trying to find, oh, did you see that Kevin Nowlan issue he did over here, or that one he did over here? But certainly he's done a plethora of covers. And that's why we're covering him here today. This is a more recent one as well that I really liked. I remember when he was posting on Twitter, he was posting it in pieces. And he also colored this himself. And so dramatic, so interesting. Again, his lighting techniques are very reminiscent. You can see the Frazetta influence, I should say, in his work. Like all the kind of the lighting effects on his body and stuff are very reminiscent of stuff that Frazetta used to do. So it's interesting. You can find artists, and if you have a keen eye, you can start to sort of figure out where their influences were, because we all have. I mean, I'm not saying this as a negative, because we all have influences, right? But one of the things that again he's best loved for, especially by other artists, is his use of blacks, his shadow and light. They're accurate, but he also creates a design element with his blacks that are really interesting to look at. And again, I wonder how much, because I've never asked him about it, but I wonder how much of that is just natural inclination in terms of this is how I'm going to lay this down, or is there a lot of thought that goes into the shapes and stuff to try and create an interesting design? But like he uses like that nice blue there on his flesh tone on the shadow side of his face, and so his coloring is really top notch as well. But yeah, I thought this was really great. Now you might remember this. I was collecting. I wasn't even a pro at this point when this came out. And again, this is not something with a lot of heavy blacks, very Toth looking, if you will. A lot of open. There is a nice little bit of lighting effect on the clay face here. But look how open Batman is. Very Tothy looking. And so it's very interesting that he'll fluctuate during depending on what time period you're looking at his work. It's really heavily shadowed, and sometimes he just leaves it open. Remember this storyline? I want to say Norm Brayfogle was doing the storyline in like Batman and Detective Comics about the Mud Pack. So it had all the different versions of Clayface. This had to have been like, well, again, it's probably late 80s, right? But there's a really great, again, the design on this is fantastic. And the Secret Origins, I want to say it was number 34, but don't quote me on that, had Animal Man and Man Bat in it. But there's a Kevin Nowlan story in it with the Secret Origin of the Man Bat. It's like either 34 or 38, something like that. And he penciled, inked, and colored it. And it's incredible. Very Toth-like. You can really feel like the Toth in his work there, where now I don't see the Toth as much as I did earlier in his work. That's just interesting. It's like me. When I draw monsters, you see Wrightson. When I do barbarians, you see Frazetta. When I do superheroes, maybe you see Neil Adams. It's just, yeah, it's just interesting how that plays out. But again, I remember seeing this cover going, well, that's cool. I don't know who did it, but it's not like, again, it's not like something I've seen before. So it made my list. Okay, now go back a little bit farther than that, right? And now you can see kind of some Wrightson influence here. I mean, especially on Valkyrie here, really reminds me of early Wrightson. This Gargoyle guy a little bit too. I mean, actually all of it does. Again, a great composition. Got the story title worked into the reflection on the water. This is a really good cover. But it's like he went from this sort of a Wrightson influence to kind of a Toth influence to now sort of an amalgam of everything that's pure Kevin Nowlan. So it's really cool to watch, because a lot of artists will come in at one level and they'll just stay there. You know, they don't change, nothing changes. They're consistent throughout their entire careers, which is fine. But it's really interesting when you watch artists that start in a certain place and continue to grow and evolve, and you can see the changes in what they've done and how they're approaching stuff. Avenger 2 says, the New Defenders, the title should have been called half the original X-Men. Well, there was a lot of titles like that. You remember the Champions? They had Iceman and Angel because they were cast off from the new X-Men, so they weren't in there. So they were part of the Champions. And then X Factor, of course, was all the old X-Men, original X-Men. So yeah, they had a lot of X characters they were tossing around to in different groups. So find a home. Yeah, I was saying the pier and wood and water feel very Wrightsony. They do. This is a very, I know, guys, there's some artists kind of embrace that, and other artists are offended when you keep bringing up their influences. Goes, oh, that looks like Wrightson. Blah, blah, blah. And I get the argument, because the argument is, hey, look, I spent my whole career developing my style. I'd like to be known for what I'm doing, not, always compared to somebody else. But on the flip side of that, we all have influences, right? And people like to kind of dig and go, oh, I can see who influenced him here. That doesn't, I learned, because I used to be kind of offended by that, but I'm not anymore, because I've learned that, people, just as like art detectives, they want it, you kind of figure out who influenced in you and who, where you got some of your stuff from. And what's true is true, right? So if Wrightson was a big influence on me, why would I try and deny that? I'm not copying Wrightson, and certainly Kevin Nowlan's not copying Wrightson here, but you can definitely see the influence. And I think it's fun especially if you're an artist yourself, to be able to look at other artists and go, how did he come up with that? Or how did he get from here to there? How did he evolve from this to that? And so it's always interesting to look at guys' influences and who they took a look at. And it's funny because Kevin Nowlan obviously was influenced by Frazetta and Wrightson, among others, and Toth. I'm not influenced by Toth, but I am influenced by Wrightson and Frazetta, and we look nothing alike. Our art looks nothing alike. Kelly Jones, influenced by Michael Golden and Wrightson, probably among others. We don't look anything alike, you know? So we're taking influences and then we're seeing them through our filter and becoming our own thing. But it's still fun to kind of look back and see where you got inspiration from. So, this is a newer cover as well, more recent, but it's really kind of iconic looking, and I really like that. I mean, there's not, you know, it's just Doctor Strange posing, but it's like I really like it. It's just a really cool, interesting shot of Doctor Strange, and most of his covers that he did on Doctor Strange, and probably still does, are really good. This is interesting to me because, correct me if I'm wrong, but, well, actually, he did do the interiors on this. Why don't I own this? I better go pick this comic. I didn't realize he did the insides. Because when he was doing the covers for Doctor Strange, a lot of that, Bichello was doing the interiors, which was weird to me. Because I was like, well, why isn't Bichello doing his own covers? But it's the same, I guess, John Byrne he didn't used to do his own covers because they'd slow. I mean, he did, but on a lot of books he worked on later, in the 80s and stuff, he had other people do his covers because he was cranking out pages and he didn't want to slow down and do a cover. But it was weird that I remember Kevin Nowlan doing a ton of covers over Bichello's Doctor Strange. I'm like, why isn't Bichello doing his own covers? Maybe it's just deadline stuff. I don't know. But I did not know, but you can see right up there in the corner, it says Barber, Nolan, and Frigeri. So I'm going to assume Kevin did the artwork on the inside. And I didn't know that. So I have to pick this up now. Doctor Strange 25. All right, there it is. Pete Kinekuman for $4.99. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. In your opinion, which is more important to a piece, inks or colors? Is it really 50-50? I would say colors now, because I used to think inks. I hated all inkers because inkers were the ones that ended up either saving or ruining your work, and generally it was ruined. Unless you were able to hook up with someone that you're on, you know, simpatico. Is that how you pronounce that? But now, because of digital coloring, and which oftentimes results in over rendering with color, you don't even notice the inks, right? So even if you have just a competent inker, that colorist is going to come in and make or break your piece. So I would say colorists now, but prior to digital coloring, I would have said inker for sure. Let's see, Lord of Brooklyn. So I can see some potential Nolan influence on the late Carlos Pacheco looking at this Doctor Strange cover. You know, it's funny. Nolan has influenced just about every current professional. Adam Hughes went through a Nolan phase where he wasn't drawing like Kevin, but he was like taking that sort of shading style and using it. And you can see some expressions and stuff working their way in there. I did it. I could show you some, if I could find them, some Batman sample pages that were very influenced by Kevin Nowlan's Batman Black and White story. If you've not seen that, you better get it because it's phenomenal. When DC released that miniseries, Batman Black and White, and it was an anthology series that had a bunch of different creators doing black and white Batman stories. I want to say the first issue had the Kevin Nowlan story in it. Maybe the best short Batman story ever. It's incredible, like an 8-page story. So yeah, everybody was influenced by Kevin at some point. There's people out there just blatantly ripping him off right now. I won't mention any names. You can go figure out who they are. I always like this cover. This sort of metal Batman thing. or Batman trapped in a metal mask. I don't know what the story was because I didn't read it because he didn't do the interiors. Although Carlos Esquerra did the interiors, and he's a Judge Dredd artist, right? Who's actually pretty good. But I remember seeing that cover going, well, that's cool. I just like the color on it. You know, it looks a lot like some watercolor and mostly colored pencil. But that, you know, the shine up here, just how he really kind of captured that sort of form-fitted metal feel. Kevin's really, really good with color too. Oh, that's right. He did a run on Outsiders as well. I don't have an Outsider cover on here though. Can't show them all. I always kind of like this cover. He's kind of got sort of his Joker kind of has a Joker from the animated series vibe to it. You know, my Joker is very much Boland inspired from The Killing Joke, where this, to me, kind of feels like he's using that sort of approach. I mean, it doesn't look exactly like it, but it has a little bit of a feel of it, you know, to what Bruce Timm had done. Because I think the Joker to me was just horrible, stupid character. Even when Neil Adams drew him, I didn't like the way he looked. I just thought he looked dumb. And when Boland did The Killing Joke, that for me, then suddenly the Joker became a real villain to me, and a really cool villain. And I wonder if that happened to a lot of people, because if you look at how the Joker was drawn in the 80s up into The Killing Joke, which was 87, I think, maybe 88. No, it couldn't have been. It was 87, wasn't it? Maybe 86. And it just reconfigured everything. Then Batman the Animated Series came out, the Bruce Timm stuff, and that sort of, you know, pushed him in a different direction. So I may be totally wrong on this. I mean, I might ask Kevin and he'd say, nah, that's just my take on him, which is totally fine. And I just like it. It's kind of a fun cover. And then finally, I can't remember. You guys have to remind me if he did the interior on this or not. I think I have this issue tucked away in my collection, but I'd have to go revisit it. I don't know if Kevin did the interiors on this or if this was a Jeff Purvis issue before Dale took over. I just love the stylized wonkiness of this. And you can see in this werewolf and stuff, you still got sort of this sort of Toth influence going on back here a little bit. Again, it's really cool to kind of watch his evolution. Big centralized figures. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I saw this cover and I was like, whoa, that's weird. And I bought it because it was just interesting, unique looking. Pantheon says the interesting thing about Nolan is when he would draw people with blonde or red hair, there would only be a couple of lines to indicate that they had hair. I think he wanted the color to give it volume. That is probably true. I mean, his reasoning. I mean, I know it's true that he would only indicate a few lines for the hair and left it open. But see, he definitely colored this. And look at the old style, like cutout coloring. I mean, this is kind of how I color now, but I do with way softer edges than this. But it's very stylized, good color choices, flat color, but good color choices are the most important thing with coloring. And if you've ever seen Kevin's painted work, it's really, really nice. Anyway, I just thought this was one of my favorite cool covers of his. But there's many more. Some of you guys have been mentioning them in the chat. There's always going to be a few that I don't get in. But yeah, I've always big fan of Kevin's and continue to be so. And anytime he's on an interior, I'm going to pick it up because I was going to say it's usually something cool, but it's always something cool. So, all righty. Well, guys, it's almost 5 o'clock, and we started at 3. That means we're closing in on the 2-hour mark, which means, can you tell I'm stalling? I'm arranging my videos real quickly here. I've got some interesting, wow, I got more than I thought I had. I've got like 5 videos today of varying creatures. So now that I've got my videos organized, let's run the all too familiar. You know, I don't really do the snack time anymore, but I did pick these up at Trader Joe's today. Double chocolate wafer cookies. That sounds like they're... See, I can have 7 of these, and it's only 150 calories. So once again, I think it's healthy for me. And oh, a little brick. It's good eating. Okay. This first video I've named Bigfoot Alaska style. So I guess that means it's Bigfoot in Alaska, right? Let's see what we can see here. Oh, there he is, back there. See him? And that's it. Okay. I'm not sure what he's looking at here. There he is. There, see him? You can see him just right there, moving through the grass. Right there. Right there he is. Of course, that could be anything, provided it's actually real footage. Now this, what do we got here? Okay. Oh yeah, it looked like snow, but it's actually the birch trees. It's like there it is, there it is, there it is, right there. Woohoo! Right there, going behind those trees. Watch this again. Right there, right there, right there, right there. Whenever I see this stuff, makes me wonder how difficult is it actually to like put an image in behind the trees digitally? Because a lot of these look very similar. Like this is okay right here. Let's see what we can see. So there he is between the two. See him moving right there. So the question for me is always, is it a dude in a costume? Is it AI generated? Or is it a bear? And those are really my only three options. I suppose the other option could be, is it really Bigfoot? Of course, fleeting videos like this don't really prove anything, but they're fun for scientific analysis. And that's exactly what we do here. Gemini Dragon wants to know if those cookies are gluten-free. They are not, but Trader Joe's has a lot of gluten-free. I don't think they are. I didn't really look. They don't taste gluten-free. So I don't know. That's just kind of to wet your palate a little bit here as we move on to bigger and better things. Okay. Let's do this. This is a Canadian Bigfoot. You guys, apparently this video was taken at the campsite at night by a trail cam or a camera set up by the campers. As you can see, the two headlight eyes of Bigfoot there in the shadows. Let's see. He moves a little bit, but right here is where we want to watch. Oh. You know what they do on this one? They flip the shot, so it looks like you have two different shots, but it's the same shot, but just flipped. Okay, so you just see the eyes and the slow-mo movement. It doesn't really tell us anything, but right here, okay, look at his arm, hand, arm, and leg right there. That's where we actually get to see something. See the leg and arm move? It doesn't prove anything, but at least it's more than just two glowing eyes. Because I wasn't even going to show this video. Whenever I see two eye videos, see how they flip the image. So now his arm and leg are over on the other side. But whenever they show the two like headlights, it's like that's nothing. But this actually has some arms and leg attached to it. So I thought, okay, that's worth taking a look at. It says, looks like he's holding a possum. That's actually his hand. This is actually his hand right there. So you can see, I'm sure every time I point it out, the box shows up and then obscures the hand. But let me do this and then I'll do it without, but that's his hand. There, see his thumb and his fingers are right there. So looking at it again, without the box, you can see how that hand turns in the light. And you can see the fingers and the thumb there. But again, I mean, the big question with these is always, if this is a trail cam, where's the rest of it? You know, if this is actually legit, where's the rest, like a Bigfoot attacking the tent or him looking around and then leaving? We don't get any of that. We get like these little tiny couple pieces of movement and then they cut, which leads me to believe that it's fake. Because why are we not getting more? Why does it end right there? Where's the rest of the film? What's he doing right after that moment? The animator got tired. That's what he's doing. And said, I'm not going to do anymore. People are calling for Wraith versus the UFOs. I don't like UFOs. UFOs aren't as fun. It's like, I mean, I guess they could be. Like, what's the movie where the monsters react to sound? With the guy from The Office directed. Those are kind of scary aliens. Okay, now what do you think of this? Silent, no, what is it called? Not Mars Attacks. The whatever. Wraith versus Golem. You know, it's interesting. I have a story. If you look back on one of my very first Wraith of God print that you could get with my campaign, it has several monsters on it. One's a witch, which just appeared in Wraith of God 3. One's a Frankenstein monster. There's a werewolf and a vampire, which you've already done the werewolf and vampire. And then there's a golem in there. So The question is, will Wraith of God, will you guys, when I say you guys, I mean most of you people in the chat obviously supported the campaign, but will there be enough support? That's how I'll phrase it, for me to continue the series long enough that we get hit all these monsters. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. This is like a rake or a skinwalker underwater, I guess. Some guy allegedly, this is him at his dock, and he filmed this. Because if I saw that underwater, I'd film it. No, I would run. Are you kidding me? What is that? And then it goes under. I mean, I will say this about this video. It's one of the more creepier ones I've seen, but there's nothing in there. I mean, how? Okay, look at this. You can kind of see it here. The dock is pretty much in focus, but this isn't. Why is this so not in focus? Oh, we all know why. Wraith versus the Mummy. Yeah, I got one of those stories too, where a mummy comes into like a traveling show, and yeah, mayhem ensues. Good point. No reaction to the water, just a blur. Yeah, no ripples in the water. That's a very good point, especially if that thing were moving. Yeah, it would cause some sort of disturbance on the surface if it was moving and being that close to the surface. So there you go. You guys have just debunked this. Not that it took much, but that'll do it. Fake. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to save that one for last. Let's do the Bigfoot family. Because I like the fact that now we're getting more family-oriented Bigfoot videos. You know, it's not just Bigfoot, it's Bigfoot and his wife, or Bigfoot and his kids, or Bigfoot and his wife and his kids. It just feels, it's just a more, you know, more of a family cryptid environment. So How to Hunt. This was taken from the website How to Hunt. And I don't know if it's actually a hunting, you know, channel, or if it's, you know, a cryptid channel. I have no idea. But there you go. So we see this. Look at this little Bigfoot motoring there to catch up with his parents or his dad. So the comments on this are that it had to be a Bigfoot because no human kid could run that fast through a swampy area. And it's super cold too, out, allegedly. I don't see any swamp. I just see grass. I mean, this looks like dirt in the foreground. So I don't know why we're assuming there's a river out there or a swamp. Maybe there is. I have no idea. I can't tell. And they say, look at how long his arm is. No human being's arm would be that long. It's got to be Bigfoot. And you're like, okay. So here are your choices. Could be Bigfoot. Could be a family out walking around in the grass, or it could be entirely fake. But one thing we do know, it's totally out of focus, which means it's perfect for a Bigfoot video. Look at that little kid motor. There's no way a human kid could run like that in cold weather and in a swampy grass area. Allegedly. And there's no way that guy's arm could be that long. Allegedly. Brontosaurus Boy says, I can't imagine a hunter being so shaky with the camera. I agree. Looks more like a wheat field. That's what I was saying. Maybe he's petting a dog right there. Does that even, do we even know that's his arm? Maybe there's a dog with him. He's petting the dog. Yeah, this is not something that's going to make me join a Bigfoot hunting club. Okay. I saved the best for last. This is called, well, at least I named it. There's a rake in my backyard, and I don't mean the kind you rake leaves with. Okay, so allegedly, now check it out. You see that this woman's finger right here? It looks like they're playing Keno or something up here. I don't know what's going on, but they have like 4 cameras in their backyard, right? Which is leads to the credibility of this being maybe more authentic, but we'll see as it develops. Let's take a look here. So they're in the backyard and they see this rake or skinwalker or slender man or whatever it is. Okay. So there he is walking around and they have commentary. They're going, that's a guy. There's a naked guy in our backyard. What is that? You know, so they're talking as they look at this, right? And again, everything is blurry. I mean, the dude is blurry. The creature is blurry, but everything else looks okay. All right. So see, they have the 4 cameras. So that's how authentic this is. Okay. Watch this. Look at that right there. Look. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it this way, but look between his legs, folks. That is stretchy material. That guy is in a bodysuit walking around trying to pretend he's a creature. And that's the dead giveaway right there. Look at that. He's clearly in one of those, what do you call them? Skin tight bodysuits. I mean, you can clearly see that's what it is. And there he's running around their backyard. There is again with a stretchy pant. You can see it right there. And they did what they could to wash it out and blur it out so you couldn't notice, but yeah, we can notice. And if you look at his face, look at that profile, you can tell it's like he's got a hood over his head. It's like a Spider-Man mask without the eyes. Right there. Look at that. That is clearly one of those stretchy hooded masks. So he's got a bodysuit on. He's walking around their backyard and they're going, look, there's a cryptid in our backyard. Oh, look. Oh, he's stretching right there. Oh my gosh. Can they not? I actually, when this one started, I went, this is pretty good. And you got it's a long video. You got this creepy thing out there, but then they just kept showing it. I was like, wow, they got a lot of footage. This is, you know, usually don't see this on these kind of videos. And then now we know why the other ones cut out so quickly before they give themselves away. That's it exactly. The Green Man outfit. That's exactly what this guy's wearing. Pastmaster Dan saying, hung like a pimple. Yeah. Brian says, or they blurred his, oh, wait a minute. Or Brian Suddenly Old says, or they blurred his crotch for modesty. That ain't blurring. That is stretching fabric is what that is. And it's exactly what that would just, yeah, the Ninja Genko Green Man outfit. That's exactly what that is. A lot of debunking going on today's show. I'm sorry. I was hoping that we would have more mystery, but not this week. It says, the Ninja Genko says, don't want to sound like a redneck with it, but I would have been trying to mount it on my wall. What's that thing in the backyard? Randy Howell, pumping up my website. Brontosaurus Boy. Aaron has 5 other books that he's crowdfunded. You can still pick up on his website. That is true. Brontosaurus Boy, if you are new, thank you for joining us. And if you do want to get some, if you want to check out some of the books, go to my website because they're all there. And thank you very much. But yeah, that's the best we got today on the old cryptid videos. It's getting harder and harder because there's so much AI. There's more videos, but a lot of them are just crap, and I don't even bring them on. If they're so bad, they're like, I'm not gonna, like there was a Dogman video, not a video, a photograph, allegedly, of a dogman like 15 feet away from this guy coming through a cornfield, looking right at him, snarling, looked like a werewolf. And I was like, okay, the guy who took this picture, if that was really a dogman, would be dead right now. So, but it was clearly AI generated image. And so I've got to find the one that, find ones that are at least kind of, they're either got to be so bad that we can laugh at them, or at least good enough that there's some question. Hang on a second here. Who's Paul Taylor says you could always substitute Bigfoot with Florida Man. Marcus Killigrew. Where is it at? I just saw it. Now I can't find it. Basically saying that we didn't get any cannonballs this week either, which we didn't. Marcus says he tried for a cannonball earlier. I'm sorry I missed it. Here you go. On the way out the door, we get a cannonball in for Marcus for calling me out for not paying attention to the chat, apparently. All righty, guys. That's all I got for this week. So David Williams picks the categories for graybeards this week, so it should be good stuff. I will show you my completed version of this when I put the sky in and maybe some reflective light on her, and we'll take a look at it on Wednesday, see how it all turned out. And thank you for joining me. Enjoy the remainder of the Super Bowl, and we'll see. Oh, thank you for the super chats. Thank you for joining me, period. Can't do the show without you. We'll see you next week right here on, almost said Aaron Live, on Comics, Cryptids, and Cannonballs. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you guys.
Mr.